There are foundational principles that are a part of who we are as a movement that are going to continually be reviewed and sown back into the community. First of all, because there are new people coming in, we want them to know. Johnson's Revelation on Honor will become a foundation of what we are, and we'll have to go back through that on a consistent cycle. Because new people will come in. Also because you and I begin to move forward, and if we're not careful, we begin to lose some of the things that helped establish us in the position that we're in. And it's amazing to me how there's a scholastic element to the kingdom, yet we seem to be allergic to review. Any other arena that has any degree of scholasticism celebrates the idea that we would review the principle continually, because the purpose is not to have been able to hear it and say amen while it's being spoken. The point is to be able to apply the principle. So we're not just trying to throw information at you to see what sticks. We actually want to help pound the revelation into the heart of the believers so that when the storm comes, the revelation is so deep in you it cannot be shaken. There's a word spoken to them that did not have necessary root. Let me veer off. This will be fun. When I was in Texas, I was having a conversation with a rancher. I happened to be in a particular part of the country. The ranch that I was on is on the line of King and Cottle County, which are the two most famous ranching counties in America. One of the ranches that I was hunting adjoined to is 290,000 acres. One of the other ranches that I was adjoined to is about 185,000 acres. And it's just some of the most famous ranches in the world. And they just consume incredible amounts of land. Most of them were established in the early 1800s. This is the Goodnight Trail that came through this region. It's incredibly famous ranches. And I was beginning to talk to them about how one day, because there are no trees, the wind blows there incredible winds blow. And one day the wind was blowing, not gusting, but blowing about 65 miles an hour, which is almost a Category 1 hurricane. And they just do life that way. They're just used to it. But what I noticed was the wind was blowing out of the east, and I was riding down one of these, 200,000 acre deals, and all of these tumbleweeds are blown up against the fence. And I began to ask the rancher about that. I said, what do y'all do with that? He said, that's the number one enemy of a rancher in the panhandle of Texas. Tumbleweeds. I said, why? He said, because as light as they are, if you get enough of them pushing on a fence, they'll actually tear the fence down. And so the Lord, immediately I walked away from him, and the Lord said, what are the attributes of a tumbleweed? Dry, disconnected, and unable to produce fruit. And the only thing a tumbleweed can ever get joined to is other dry, disconnected things incapable of producing fruit. And if enough dry, disconnected, incapable of producing fruit things get together, they will actually start to cause damage when the wind begins to blow. I said, what then do we do to eliminate the tumbleweeds? He said, you don't. He said, I'll actually take what the enemy meant for evil and use it for good. I said, what do you mean? He said, I never wanted the fence to be there. He said, the fence is the thing that keeps the wild ones in. And I'm trying to set the wild ones free. He said, so don't spend all of your life chasing down everybody blowing in the wind that's dry, disconnected, and fruitless. Just let them get together, push your fences over, and I'll set the wild ones free until it begins to permeate the culture. If everybody was willing to tell the truth, most of us got in here because somebody that was dry, disconnected, and fruitless pushed on our fence. And if we'd been left alone, we'd still be in the cage. But I learned that Jesus can use Jezebel too and push the fence right on over until you get in a land called liberty. Can anybody look back now and say, I thought it was tragic at the time, but I sure am glad my fence got blown down, because now I can run wild for him. Whew. He uses it all. He uses it all. He uses it all. Luke 9, I think. If you've got a tumbleweed up against your fence tonight, chill out. If you got a tumbleweed up against your fence, if there's some dry, disconnected, fruitless things pushing on you, just chill out. The Lord uses those too. The fence was never his idea. Containment was never his idea. Domesticating you was never his idea. His idea is that you'd run wild and that you'd run free. His idea is that you would never know the confines and borders of a system that says you can go here but you can't go there. I'm telling you, there's nowhere you can't go. There's no body that cannot be healed. There's no dead man that cannot be raised. There's no college campus that cannot be revived. There is no city that cannot burn with the fires of awakening. So if there's tumbleweeds against your fence, just rejoice. God's about to use your enemy to make sure you get into territory you've never been able to get into before.